Imagine finally seeing $10,000 sitting in your savings account.
You've spent months working, saving, and saying no to things you wanted.
Then, one morning, you finally reach the number everyone talks about. And then, something incredibly disappointing happens. Absolutely nothing. You wake up in the same room. You still drive the same car. You still go to the same job. And $10,000 definitely doesn't make you rich. So why do financial milestones like this matter at all? Because the biggest change isn't what you can buy. It's what you no longer have to fear. Imagine your car suddenly needs a $2,000 repair tomorrow. With no savings, that repair might become credit card debt. With $10,000 saved, it's painful, but potentially manageable. Same broken car. Completely different financial consequences. Economists have a boring word for something incredibly valuable: liquidity. Liquidity means having resources you can access when life refuses to wait. And American households have repeatedly learned why that matters during recessions. During economic shocks, income can disappear long before expenses do. That makes cash reserves something investments alone can't always replace safely. Because markets have an inconvenient habit of falling when people need money. Selling investments during a downturn can permanently lock in losses. So that boring $10,000 balance just bought something surprisingly powerful: options. But now comes a harder question. What should Alex actually do with it? He could spend the money and finally enjoy the milestone. He could keep every dollar available for emergencies. He could eliminate expensive debt and stop interest from quietly compounding. Or he could invest it and let time enter the equation. Same $10,000. 4 decisions. 4 completely different versions of Alex. Let's follow all 4 versions of Alex and see where each decision leads. First, Alex decides he's earned the right to enjoy his money. He books a vacation, upgrades his laptop, and buys some new clothes. And for a while, this version of Alex feels absolutely fantastic. Spending money isn't automatically a mistake. Money is also meant to support life. But every financial choice has something economists call an opportunity cost. Choosing one thing means giving up whatever that money could have done elsewhere. A year later, the memories remain, but most of the capital doesn't. That's not necessarily failure. It's simply the price of the decision. Now rewind. This Alex refuses to touch the $10,000. He keeps it accessible, safe, and deliberately boring. Then, 3 months later, his employer announces layoffs. And suddenly, that boring pile of cash becomes incredibly interesting. Rent still arrives, even when the paycheck doesn't. His savings are no longer an investment opportunity. They're buying him time. Time to search without accepting the first terrible job he finds. This is why emergency savings aren't designed to maximize returns. Their job is to prevent bad timing from forcing desperate financial decisions. But safety has a cost too. Over long periods, inflation can reduce what idle cash actually buys. So, liquidity protects the present, but doesn't automatically build the future. Now rewind again. This Alex has something the others didn't. $8,000 of high-interest credit card debt. Now, investing the full $10,000 becomes a very different decision. Because investment returns are uncertain. Credit card interest is contractually very real. Paying expensive debt can remove a guaranteed financial drag from your future. And psychologically, that changes something else. Monthly cash flow. Money that once serviced debt can now support other financial goals. But even paying debt isn't automatically the right answer in every situation. Because now we reach the decision everyone expected first: investing the money.
This, Alex, makes the decision everyone probably expected. He invests the money,
but he doesn't try finding one magical stock that makes him rich. Instead, imagine he owns tiny pieces of hundreds of different companies. That idea has a name: diversification. Diversification can't eliminate risk, but it can spread certain risks around. Then Alex does something surprisingly difficult. Nothing. A year passes. Then 5. Then 10. And something begins happening that wasn't very impressive in the beginning. Returns can begin generating additional returns of their own. That process is what people mean when they talk about compounding. But compounding doesn't move upward in a smooth, comfortable, straight line. In 2008, American stocks suffered one of their worst modern collapses. Retirement accounts fell, businesses struggled, and fear spread through financial markets. Someone forced to sell near the bottom could lock in painful losses. This is exactly why investment time horizon matters. Money needed next month shouldn't automatically take the same risks as retirement money. Then came another real test: the market crash of March 2020. Stocks plunged rapidly as uncertainty about the pandemic swept across the world. Markets later recovered, but nobody standing there knew exactly when they would. That uncertainty is the price investors accept for pursuing potential long-term returns. And this is why 10,000 invested isn't remotely the same as 10,000 guaranteed. One gives certainty today. The other exchanges certainty for potential future growth. Neither choice is automatically smarter without knowing what Alex actually needs. That is the part social media advice usually leaves out. The best use of $10,000 depends on everything surrounding those dollars. Debt changes the answer. Job stability changes the answer. And when you'll need the money may change the answer most of all. Now, bring all 4 versions of Alex back to the same moment. Each started with exactly $10,000, but purchased something completely different. The spender purchased experiences and enjoyment today. The saver purchased time and protection against financial emergencies. The borrower purchased freedom from expensive interest payments. And the investor purchased exposure to uncertain future growth. Notice what none of them purchased: instant financial freedom. $10,000 is meaningful, but it isn't a magical wealth threshold. That is exactly why the milestone matters more psychologically than materially. For the first time, one unexpected expense doesn't automatically become a crisis. And that changes the way you make decisions under pressure. Behavioral economists have repeatedly found that scarcity can consume mental bandwidth. When every dollar is urgent, long-term thinking becomes much harder. A financial buffer can't solve everything, but it can create breathing room.
And sometimes breathing room is exactly what better decisions require.
We've seen the opposite happen during real American economic shocks. In 2008, millions of American jobs disappeared during the Great Recession. In 2020, unemployment surged with extraordinary speed as businesses suddenly shut down. Those shocks reminded millions why liquidity becomes valuable when income becomes uncertain. But holding every dollar forever creates a different long-term problem. Inflation gradually changes how much the same amount of cash can purchase. So financial security and long-term growth solve two completely different problems. And confusing those jobs can create surprisingly expensive mistakes. Money needed next month has a fundamentally different job than retirement money. And expensive debt can change the calculation before investing even begins. That means there is no universal answer for your first $10,000. The right question is, what problem does this money need to solve? Your first $10,000 doesn't buy freedom. It buys financial options. And having options can completely change what happens when life stops cooperating. Now, choose security, debt freedom, or growth. Which deserves your first $10,000?